Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in X, presented by Crushing Comics. I'm here with three of my favorite friends, fans, and mutant lovers from around the world, Tyler, Harry, and Fariha. And we're here to talk about a one-shot this week, King in Black Marauders #1. It's the Marauders taking a little side detour to participate in Marvel's big event of the season. So we're going to talk about everything about this issue, which was out on the 3rd of February, 2021. And that means full spoilers, not only for this issue, but probably for some other things happening in King in Black as well. So you have been warned. I'm just going to talk about King in Black regardless of if the thing happened in this issue or not. And so will the other folks on the panel who have read King in Black. So now, as we do, we're going to have our lightning round of initial from the gut opinions, but I want you to include in this, if you could be so kind, if you have read any other King in Black material other than Sword #2, so people who are watching and listening can know where you're coming to this from. Starting with Tyler.
I have read the King in Black main event, but not any of the other tie-ins.
Okay.
So this is a sort of between the raindrops type of story, trademarked by, well, Between the Raindrop is trademarked by Mark Waid. So the story is actually more Marauders than King in Black.
Yeah.
In this issue, which is kind of what I want if I'm just a Marauder fans and not interested in the King in Black event at all. I like it, but it felt a little bit choppy because the point of view character was basically dropped after a third into the issue, which I was like, wait, what happened? And then the art, I think by Luke Ross, is quite good, but I wasn't exactly wowed by it. So, 3 ice cubes out of 5.
Harry.
All right. So, yeah, I've read all of King in Black so far. I think it sucks. I don't really enjoy it very much. I've been kind of like neutral on Donny Cates' run anyway. I just feel like this is like such a redundant event after Absolute Carnage anyway. Although Venom dragons are cool. I'm not made of stone. I thought this issue was great. I really like this. I thought this is just a nice, fun, like exciting adventure where the Marauders are doing pirate stuff. I think there's a lot of great stuff with each of the characters. I think that it sets up some interesting things if the series is going to take where this issue ends and runs with it. I think that's a huge development for Krakoan and this line as a whole. And then the biggest thing for me is, I have not typically been that impressed by Luke Ross. I think he's always been fine. But I thought this art was great. I think it was kind of like a more cartoony style for him. And it really worked for me. So I was just like, oh my God, this is like the nicest tie-in. This is what I want from these tie-in books, where it does feel like it could be a random issue of the book. And if you read this without reading any of King in Black, you're going to get it. There are space dragons.
Fariha.
So I kind of agree with both Tyler and Harry, and that in the sense that it's good that I don't have to, because a lot of the time Marvel tie-in can be very ridiculous. It stops an entire series and then you have to kind of re-scene it with Sword. But at least this one, it was an extended, it was kind of outside a one shot. But to be honest, the way the story read, it could also be just a Marauders story anyway. So throughout it, I would say that this was more of a 3 Venom dragons out of 5. But there was one information, that one thing that one person says at the very end made it 5 out of 5, and I'm going to reveal it later. So, but I'll hold on to that. But the thing is, like, I mean, from that point of view, that's my initial gut reaction.
All right, mental note. Fariha is setting up the gun to go off in the 3rd act here. We're going to find out later.
In the 3rd act.
You got to come back to it.
Yeah, keep listening. You got to watch the whole thing. So I had a lot of reactions to this. I have so many feelings. I'll start with the art. I too have enjoyed Luke Ross, but sometimes he thinks he draws almost like too broadly. Like I'm like, give me like a little bit more detail. And actually I feel like he found like a really great middle ground here that just really worked for me. I think if this was an artist that was alternating with somebody like Lolly on the main title, I would be totally okay with that. Like I think it just captured good Marauders energy for me. And I think the colors by Carlos Lopez were really good too. So I was into that. I was really just kind of confused about why it wasn't a regular issue of Marauders. Like, you would think that the sales bump would be more if they made it a regular issue of Marauders. It's written by Gerry Duggan. It pretty much just fits into what's happening in Marauders right now. So I just was like really, really puzzled, because to me, this was good Marauders. It shows that the cast has always been good. The premise has always been good. And I think we've gotten distracted so much by the like Emma Kate Shaw stuff that we've almost forgotten that this is how much fun this book was to begin with. And the Emma Kate Shaw stuff is fun too. Don't get me wrong. But like, this is kind of what I actually signed up for. I
mentioned that. I think I've mentioned that, where I'm like, we haven't done a lot of pirate stuff lately in the book, and this book is all pirate stuff, and with characters we haven't had a focus on. It's awesome, you know.
Yeah, like make it like a 0.1 issue, or just run it in the run or something. Like Marauder's gonna maraud. Like, let's have some marauding.
Let's maraud this.
So answered my final part of my intro question, but to spin us off. So I have, because of Harry, read all of King in Black. It's your fault down there, okay?
What did I do?
Because you were like, well, I've read some King in Black. And then I was like, all right, I've got to read it, I guess. I mean,
you just wanted to one-up Harry. Well,
because it made me curious. And here's all you really need to know is Venom dragons or symbiote dragons. That's really all you need to take away. The balance problem I think King in Black is having we're not going to discuss this unless somebody super disagrees with me, because it's not what the focus of this episode is about, is it's got this amazing, horrific, huge scale character in the middle of it, and yet the stakes are very much the stakes of like every other Venom story. It's like, oh no, somebody got Storm got a symbiote on her, which is what we're dealing with in this story. And it's like, at the point that you have a character that cool as Null, and the point that you have this fleet of dragons, like, shouldn't it be more interesting? And I think what Duggan does really successfully here is he's like, let's not even get into all that. I'm not even wading into that. Let's just, as Tyler said, stay in between the raindrops and do a story about people, because the stakes are actually a bit off kilter here, and I'm not going to fix that in one issue. And I really appreciated that. So, we're at sea here. And I think one of the most interesting things that's happening in the background of being on sea is this balance with Bishop the Red Bishop, right? We see Kate deferring to him because he's going to be in charge once they make landfall. We see Pyro having some skepticism of him. And I just feel like I want this story. Like, I'm hungry. I don't know. Tyler, what did you think about just the Bishop developments here?
Well, definitely. I mean, we have data pages. I can't remember if it is one or two, where Bishop basically writes a report to Beast about what happens in Marauders, right? So the question now is this: Beast is not on the Quiet Council; he's an intelligence unit. So, what allegiance is Bishop? Who is he? Loyal to? Is he loyal to Beast? Is he part of the secret intelligence officer? Is he loyal to Marauders because he's there in his monologue, he's there to protect Kate? Or is he a war captain whose loyalty is to Krakoa? So, I feel like Pyro is basically saying, well, it seems like your loyalty is to the intelligence unit and not us.
Harry?
Well, he said that twice.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, the first time was like, you sure like talking to cops. And then he's like,
so good.
That was such a zinger, man. In this day and age, in this X-Men line, that really hit.
Yeah.
And for a black character. And then
right? Yeah, like levels.
Character.
Yeah.
And then he's like, your blue furry pen pal or something like that towards the end.
I won't lie. I forgot about the connection with X-Force and Bishop until like halfway through the issue, but it worked so well for me. I've been I've said before, I've been wanting more focus on Pyro and Bishop. And this was you're right, Tyler, that it kind of gets a little scattered at one point, but it is like a more Bishop focused issue. And I find this fascinating because you're right. I don't know what side this guy is on. I don't know if he's loyal to the intelligence team. I don't know if he's loyal to the Marauders. Like, I do like that this book is incorporating this whole Beast sucks kind of storyline from X-Force. You know what I mean? Like,
we like any book that incorporates a Beast sucks.
Yeah. I'm just like, I love this. If you keep this theme going in all the books, I'm going to be happy. But no, it's like, it's just good. Like, I really hope this continues in the main series. Just what is going on with this guy's allegiances, because it's so interesting in a very kind of like effortless way. It just feels good.
Freya?
So we know that Bishop is from a future where
Mhm.
they hunted all the mutants down and put
Mhm.
ends on them, right? From the X Factor. I read that. So
She
so the
knows
thing is,
stuff.
like, I know yeah. So the thing is, because of that, I think he is very skeptical about Krakoa. So I highly doubt he actually has any loyalty to Krakoa to that level. What my kind of going back to, again, the inefficiency of it all, because as an engineer, inefficiency of any level sucks. For me, it's like a physical torture point. So it's like another thing. It's like, why can't they just have an open, communication? Like one is talking to the other out in the open anyway, because you should have your black market operation talking to your intelligence service. Why not have that out in the open? Why going through secretly, going all of that? Because if Bishop decides to leave the team, then what? And the vice versa. They just like, I was like, okay, fine. There's another level of mystery, sure. But it just like, when you're talking about when you take the whole of rocks in total, it just becomes, okay, is no one talking to no one? Is anything being efficiently run? What is going on? Like, that's, I think, well, we're gonna talk about X Factor. That's the only thing that's efficiently being run.
Well, but
anyway,
the thing
otherwise,
is this, right? Like, I mean, to your point, the Krakoa system, Beast is the gatekeeper of information. That is the problem. So all information feeds to him, and then I think he reports to the Quiet Council. So if you remember the picture of the tree.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So why is Bishop having to do this secretly? Why is that not his official title?
Yeah.
Like, why hasn't Kate, Emma, and them just told him officially, like, hey, just go talk to Beast. Like, you're gonna be our communication director, for this chapter of Krakoa. Why not? But they're not doing that.
Yeah, because we have just said it is Beast doing what Beast does best.
Sucking?
Yeah, being shitty.
shady nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, ugh, okay, whatever, sure.
You've all brought up such interesting points here, and I think it's gotten me a lot deeper than I was to begin with on this stuff. Like, I don't think I was here when I asked this Bishop being Bishop question, because there are layers, right? He's from this alternate future where mutants were hunted and feared, but then he becomes a cop in that future, which is how he comes back to the past. And I don't think we need to play the whole Bishop genocidal madman through time thing in order to just say that he does have some connections with X-Force. Even the repair of him as that character happened in an X-Force title, in Uncanny X-Force by Sam Humphries. So I think there are many intrinsic values of Bishop that are X-Forcey and copy. And I think especially to have that be your one black character in your cast now that Storm is no longer officially on the cast, although she hasn't left yet here, which calls into question does like before or after the prior issue of Marauders. I think that that's all really fascinating. So I think what looks like just a little dig from Pyro is actually something that's quite cleverly loaded with a lot of not only Bishop's history, but who is Bishop in terms of this utopia. And I think you all just nailed it. Like, how much could this person who's lived through these things actually trust what is going on this island? But the final thing I took away with it that I don't think all of you really talked about is this understanding between Kate and Bishop. They're not characters that have a whole ton of history with each other. In fact, I'm hard pressed to even think of times that they've been on the team together before. But they have this really great understanding of they're going to go and both kind of do their mission in the same way. And they're both characters that while they want to be optimistic, they're ultimately very pragmatic. Right. And that's a very Kate Pride kind of thing. It's a very Bishop thing. They just come from that pragmatism from two different sides. Kate tends to come to it from a more idealistic standpoint. Bishop tend to come to it from a more cynical standpoint. And in that moment, I was like, this is actually like a really neat moment of respect and balance between two X characters who actually I am struggling to think if they've ever talked to on panel before. I'm sure somebody in the comments will probably tell me when that was. But I think this brings us along to Kate, right? Kate as a leader here, and that Kate, in my take on it, she leads with compassion. She has a mission and she's being pragmatic, but she also cares. And that what makes her a really unique leader in the X-Men. She's not going to react in the way that Cyclops does in his very single-minded, one eye on the prize kind of way. She's not going to react the way that Storm does, where she's like, I've led people before. She's going to react with the heart. And I think that that's what takes her off course here. And then even after they get off course to look after these folks that are beset by dragons in this dragon storm, they go on off course yet again into looking into something that's a little fishy about this, and then go off course a third time in finding these refugees and taking them somewhere when their friends who they love are currently symbiote-tized in New York City. Thoughts about Kate here, anybody? And kind of this progression. Could we have gotten through the story with anybody other than Kate being in charge, Fariha?
So Kate is the Fariha character of the issue. I'm going to start assigning that from now on, because when she first said that, man, Spider-Man really need to get a handle on these things, I was like completely connected. But it kind of goes back to, I had the whole rant in X-Men 15 about Cyclops being an idiot. And then, how he's just like completely going one thing and then doing another thing. But her decisions over here make sense, because she is going to save someone who is lesser, who is weaker, who genuinely needs help to her at that time. Later on we find some other things, but, so she kind of is going for that. So it feels okay for her to veer off from the whatever the mission is, and maybe because I really don't care for Cyclops, so he can die. Maybe that's why, I'm like, oh, Cyclops, and I know Storm can handle herself, so I'm like, I'm not even worried. So that's why probably, I'm like, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense that yes, you're gonna be compassionate and you're gonna move away from your whatever your actual mission is to go save someone who needs more help.
I want to pull something out of that before I totally forget. During the go-round is, in every instance, you can see almost in the art, credit to the artist, Kate kind of looking at both sides of it. Even when she says to Bishop, what are we actually going to do? But in that moment with the Morse code, and that's something that a lot of times when Cyclops makes we're making the hard call, you don't even really get that moment where you see him make the consideration. And I know it's supposed to communicate to you that it's more instinctual, but I like that we had to watch Kate think. That was, to me, what you pulled out. I think what was so appealing to me is I thought I got to see her think 4 different times as the leader. I don't know, Harry, are you with us? Are you on some other path?
Yeah.
Where are you down there?
Well, no, you said it best, Peter, is that just, Kate is the character with the most heart in all of these books. I feel like it is the one just the right thing is going to get done. She does think about it for a hot minute, but it does, it feels right that she would just turn from the mission and just do some good, solid, superheroing out on the seas. And that is kind of what separates her from Cyclops, who would whine a bit about having to get away from the mission, or, he'd cry to himself. Anyway, it just felt right. It also felt like a good thing, showing that, yeah, these characters are heroic. They do just do good, solid things. Yeah. It's just it's not complicated. It's just super heroic. It's just very satisfying, and it works so well. It's just very, very solid.
Tyler?
I mean, to the point of Kate and Bishop relationship, I thought, it's also really great that these two characters have no ego, because basically, Bishop could have stepped in and said that, no, this is a war, I'm taking over right now.
Yes.
Or Kate can be like, no, as Kate mentioned, if you do that, I would have pushed you down and see if you drown. But the fact is that they respect each other and they know where their authority lies. So before they land, Kate is firmly in charge of this group. But after they land, Bishop takes over, because they are at war now. So that was interesting. But my question, though, is it Kate's compassion that compels her to go rescue to answer the distress call? Because she's also really, she has proven that she's intelligent, right? She knows that, well, so what if Cyclops and Storm dies? They can be resurrected. But these people in distress, they may not be mutants. They may not, they don't get the chance to be resurrected. And the fact that she just went through resurrection, she just went through a difficult resurrection in some ways, that might have, made that decision even easier for her. It's like, look, these people could die and that's it for them. But, Cyclops and Storm. Well, I love Storm, but if they die, they die. They can be brought back.
They already have once in Hogspox. So they've
Well,
seen it,
not Storm. Only Scott.
Right.
Yeah.
No storm deaths yet, I don't think. That we've seen.
I mean, like I said, Kate is the Fariha character of the issue. She does not care about Cyclops, and then we know that Kate is not compassionate. Woman, girl left Colossus at the altar. Like, we know that. Oof. She's like, I'm not feeling it. This wedding is not happening. So
I'm good.
My read of the scene is slightly different, but then let's not get there.
Yeah, that'll be for X-Men reread 20 years from now when we get all the way up to 2017 and 2018.
Entire time.
Yeah. But I can't help but also thinking about the way that she was positioned in that run where Kate didn't sign up to be the leader, but her being a leader brings something else to the book dimensionally, because she really is the next generation taking charge in the same way that Dani Moonstar reads really differently when she's in charge. And I think there's something to that. But now let's go to the final big topic of this, which is the rescue mission turns out to be of refugees, of immigrants who thought they were going safely, not to the United States in a very, very pointed dig from Duggan, but to Canada. And so Kate has to decide what to do with these human traffickers. Right? Does she just leave them to drown? Does she turn them over to the dragons, or does she do something else? And she's also got to decide what to do with these immigrants, these refugees, in a hot second, because she doesn't have that long to make the decision. I didn't get the sense the boat was going to be able to hold them all for that long, quite frankly. So I have a suspicion that this might be where Fariha's gun goes off here that she promised us in the third act, especially because it has to do with where the refugees wound up on the last page. So let's start with Tyler and Harry, and then Fariha can bring us home if we have not yet gotten to where Fariha wanted to go, or even if we have. So Tyler, what did you make of this?
Well, the first thing is I love the visualization of the Morse code, because before Bishop mentioned it, I was like, oh wait, what is that weird thing there?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah, what is that? So it's basically 3 short taps, 3 long taps, 3 short taps as SOS, which is kind of pretty well known in terms of Morse code. So it's short, long, short in 3 times. But I love that. And the other thing is that I don't understand. Okay, 2 questions. Why is there a gate in the middle of the desert?
I think Sage just set it up on the spot.
No, but you need to plant. You need to plant the flower to grow the gate.
Yeah,
that is a good point. Maybe
so that's the thing. That was a part which I was a little bit confused by.
And she even said, what's the gate that's the most remote? Yeah.
So what's the plan? That's the one thing. The other thing is that are they circumventing the law of not killing humans by just basically, hey, go to the desert. We did not kill you.
I was gonna left them some water. I mean, they're gonna be fine.
It's not like the boiling desert because there's venom goo, so they're gonna survive. It's just gonna be deeply uncomfortable and painful. It's kind of like we're gonna skirt by not killing you, but you're gonna have a really cruddy day, But it is pretty harsh all the same. That's a whole day's walk, in the friggin' desert. That's not nothing.
Well, I mean, the other thing I kind of liked is that we mentioned about Bishop and Beast earlier, but it is actually a collaboration between Percy and Duggan's, right? Because the books are cross-referencing each other. Like the Order of X appears in all 4 titles that are written by them: Cable, Wolverine, X-Force, and Marauders. And then you have the X Desk, which appears in all 4 titles. Not all 4, but 3 of them. So these two writers are actually referencing each other, which kind of to me, I like it because I like those interconnectivity, but not necessarily I have to go read this issue and then that issue to understand everything. But you get the sense that this is a bigger world than just this book.
And for me, I don't. Maybe it's just this one issue, and they might not ever keep following through with it. But there are humans on the island. That seems pretty big. I've been I was finished the issue. I'm wait a minute.
Not on the main island though.
Not on the main island, but they are they did do a quiet moving of a large group of people in the proximity.
Oh, right. They
not
go
talking to-
through.
They go through.
Yeah, that was
They go
interesting to
not
me.
to-
I was really shocked by that. That they
Yeah,
let
not
them
talking-
just walk right through Sage's little room.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems pretty interesting. I want to see if that ever gets followed up on. Like they didn't, they went past the quiet councils kind of, their what would have happened if they put it to a vote. It just seems like a big, like, we are now working outside the government's decrees,
It's kind of the theme this week, right? Like, well, let's not get the quiet council fully informed about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings us to Fariha.
So my 5 out of 5 came from the fact that the lady says like, "Oh no, not America, Canada." As a Canadian, I was like, yes, that's the country you want to be. You don't want to be, well,
He also
long story.
torched my beloved Florida. No, I wouldn't say beloved, but go on.
Yeah, Florida, But the second thing is, I was actually kind of, I'm pretty sure they actually kill those humans. Like there is no way, because they wouldn't have put them through the island and then set them out in hopes that there is some sort of, someone witnessing. And the way they left the ice on the thing, those ice is not going to survive. And the thing is, it's actually very, very good visualization, because the journey that they have set them on, these are the very similar journey that refugees take when they're trying to escape the persecution or something that they are trying to run away from.
Point.
So they just put them back in that whole sensation, experience. And I think to the same point though, because I have read a couple of stories, not a lot, so I'm not no way, shape or form authority on this. But the thing is, a lot of the time, some of the people who are running away from different African dictators actually tend to hide through the desert to their safety, So that's why I think the gate is there. Don't quote me on that. That's just, I've read a couple where this kind of happened. So I don't know whether that's what, because they did say it's a Namibian desert, right? It is somewhere in Africa. So I wonder if that's why it is, but I don't know. Maybe Namibia is not even in Africa. I don't know. But I was kind of thinking about that from that point of view. But another thing I do want to mention though is when she's talking to Emma. So Emma's like, yeah, save Scott. And then she says, oh, Storm as well. I thought that was a very pointed moment. And then, and then Magneto's just hanging out with her. And then he's just like, yeah, say that again.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, look at him. He changed, because now he's taking his thing off. And then, they're both having their own little bonding outside of Quiet Council and everything. I'm like, well, that's really nice. I mean, come on, Emma, girl, leave Scott. There is Magneto.
He's hot for Scott for reasons we don't understand.
Yeah, it's just
he take off his helmets because his helmet is protected against telepathic.
I know.
Powers.
I
okay.
get the
I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's very pointed. Yeah, that's a very pointed thing, because like I said, we're doing Daddy Cameron's run now, and earlier it's very different.
No,
that was taken off by another Quiet Council man from his head very recently, versus now he's just taking it off himself. So I thought that kind of brought it all together in the sense that I'm like, oh, look how far we have come.
Well, and also I thought it was funny because it was very person who has their earphones in, or person who's not paying attention to the kids or whatever, because that's very Magneto. It's almost like he's been wearing the helmet for so long that he wouldn't even thought oh, Emma's having a conversation, maybe I might want to tune in. And so then he's takes out the headphone, oh, mind catching me up? And Emma just totally exasperated, this probably happens all the time, is yes, I know you weren't listening, old guy, get into our instant messaging via mind.
Right.
And let me plug you in. So yeah, I think you all covered it really well. And I think the only other thing I would pull out here is where we end up, right? It's from the giant-sized X-Men Magneto issue, I think. Or is it Magneto's classic Lovecraftian Eldritch Island?
This is Octopussy Island.
Okay. Octopussy Island. And the thing that really struck me is the final 2 panels here, which is really quite the reversal for the way that Magneto is speaking to humans way back in House of X1. where he's like, we're your gods now, more or less, that he's opened his home to these people. They're giving them plants to grow trees. And he's like, the only, we're going to work with governments. We're going to find a home for you, which, really resonates if you think about Magneto's history with the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And he says, the only thing that I want from you is that many stories will be written of Krakoa's might, but the one you may tell should be of her mercy. And I just thought that that was such a significant little Magneto moment, really powerful, kind of caught me off guard and struck me dumb here. And it was in the final two panels of this Venom tie-in.
King in Black.
Yeah.
And it was a recreation for classic X-Men
backup story,
backup issue.
Yeah.
Or backup story of Magneto. See, I'm becoming an expert now. I'm becoming so dangerous right now, you guys. It's not gonna be good. But it's like very much word for word the same thing that he said. But over there, he was saying you're gonna be saying about Magneto's mercy. But now you're gonna be talking about Krakoa's mercy. And I think it's also a very much of a thing. But I was just like so taken aback by Magneto and Justin Trudeau having a moment, like having a meeting. I was just thinking all about that. As a Canadian, I was just thinking about that. I was like, oof.
I love the dialogue was really bringing a lot of it. But I just love that tender moment where she's skipping rocks and Magneto lands and just starts skipping them with her.
Not skipping.
Just
yeah,
but he's not using his powers. He's not flying. He's just throwing rocks, talking with someone, and that's such a quiet, nice moment,
But you also have to see that the tone he uses with different humans, though, because these humans are not they're
not the powerful leaders ruining things.
Powerful,
not the wolves.
They don't have secret agendas. I think that's the difference.
Right. Yeah. They're not the same type of people he's used to dealing throughout his life. So he's like, these are completely different, and someone he can connect to, because I'm pretty sure as a Holocaust survivor, he also was in a situation like this.
Yeah.
Where he was in a temporary housing.
Well, he's also playing a different role now, right? He's a government. He represents Krakoa. He's no longer representing himself or claims to represent for mutants, because Krakoa now is a recognized country. So he's kind of the head of a state, that kind of role. So his position has to be different. He cannot be. For these refugees, his stance is slightly different, but his point of view has changed. It's no longer what Magneto needs; it's what Krakoa needs, and in some ways he's becoming a politician, because nothing comes free. There is always a little bit of a hook, in whatever we do, as a politician. In that sense.
Well, I think in summation, Gerry Duggan, we see you writing that good Magneto content, and we're loving it. And I think we've covered much more than many people might have thought there was to cover here in King in Black Marauders. But it turns out it's actually really dense with stuff. And I think what you've heard from all four of us is we really hope that it's going to come and have an impact on the rest of Marauders and not just be forgotten, because there's a lot of interesting material here. So if you're looking for our discussion about any other issues out this week, we've got it, but you've just got to look to other episodes here on the channel. And we will be back next week to talk about even more This Week in X. So until then, just remember, the reason we get together and do this is why, Fariha?
X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. And so we definitely found even better things to love about this issue than we did separately. And we hope we helped you find that too. So for myself, Fariha, Harry, and Tyler, thank you so much for watching. And until we see you next, be well.